Okay, here we go. All right, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, so here we go. So I am going to let you talk about, I guess we're going to talk about Virgin Airlines and what's his face?
Richard Branson.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay.
It was actually, his full name is Richard Charles Nicholas Branson. He was knighted by the Queen, so he's Sir. And you can pretty much guarantee anytime somebody's been knighted by the Queen that he is really deep in the power system. He's currently known to be worth $3 billion. His motto in one of his books is "Screw it, just do it." What's that, Cirsten?
My Trump, 4 more years.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And like you said, you know, his thing is, his logo is Virgin, like Virgin Airlines, Virgin Records. Virgin Records is how he made a big amount of his money he's allowed to talk about, you know, other than stuff that's laundered. They had groups like Genesis and the Sex Pistols, Rolling Stones, Michael Field, Tubular Bells. It was the theme music to The Exorcist. Wow. And the big thing that is, he's actually a friend of Epstein's and Bill Gates. Yeah, and he owns a 19-island group and has what's called the Carbon War Room that was founded in 2009 with Bill Gates. And also with Bill Clinton. And what it does is supposedly develops a carbon-free footprint using solar wind power instead of carbon, you know, burning fuels and things for generators. And just happens to go through the exact same islands that the drug and sex trafficking goes through, which would be goes through Aruba, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Bahamas, Jamaica, Columbia Island, Mauritius, Comoros, Seychelles, Barbados, Dominican Republic, in Grenadines, Seychelles, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Trinidad, Tobago, and goes into Belize. And just in 2004, to give you an idea, they made $31.5 billion illegally through that trafficking of drugs and children, is what they estimate. He owns 4 private islands that he uses for what they call the A list of the world. His private one that he lives on is Necker, but there's also Mosquito Island and 4 other islands. And the biggest client that he has for the pictures and all the videos he makes there is NASA. It's found, it was found on the Pentagon computer and in NASA.
So NASA, the same NASA that's doing our chemtrails, that NASA.
That NASA, yep. So he's a pretty nasty dude. So people think Epstein was big. He's small fry when you compare it to Richard Branson. And
Richard Branson's bigger and richer.
Yeah, he's bigger, richer, and more powerful, and knows more people worldwide, and is directly involved with the hub that they're trying to take down now. They've taken out the surface traffic, and now they're trying to take out that hub. The hub centers on the Cayman Islands, where their special forces had an earthquake at 7.1 that they blew the hub in the Cayman Islands. That's a 4-way tie point. It ties to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, the Haiti, and then it also goes out to Belize from there. And so that's why they're continually working now down off the coast of Puerto Rico, where they're working. And the last earthquakes were at Alpalaguera, which is where the beautiful lights are, that bioluminescence, but they're blowing stuff up there now currently. So that's all about the supposedly wonderful Richard Branson.
What is really interesting is, you know, I just did my video today or, you know, yesterday about Cayman Islands, where Obama wires his offshore funds Emmanuel Macron wires his offshore funds. He's a central banker. Obama, CIA. And now the two assassins, I'm assuming they're French, or the American Rothschilds have run out of cash, and the French and German Rothschilds had to help them pay off the two assassins. And their $2.5 million are wired to the Cayman Islands. So the Cayman Islands must be sitting pretty with lots of cash.
Yeah, the Cayman Islands is one of the two largest hubs in the world for money laundering. The other one goes through, starts in Croatia and then goes down through Africa for laundering money, where you have an account, you invest, and then you declare a loss, the company a loss, and that's how they launder the money. And then they give you a kickback when they rebuy the land back, or the properties and the buildings and et cetera. And they just do that over and over with the same property, same land. And that's how they launder the money.
So that's bigger than, the corruption there is bigger than Ukraine then?
Oh, way bigger. That whole network is massive.
Okay, so let's get into, as we're doing the network, let's get into the 13 Illuminati families that we're going to discuss.
Yeah, and you can look at the Fritz Springmeier in his book, The Bloodlines of the Illuminati, and then as well as David Icke has. And what you need to do to really come up with is research the bloodlines and how they all intermarry, their brothers, fathers, mothers, sisters. Everybody intermarries everybody. And so it's really complicated to figure out who's who. But on the very, very top, I'll go from the top down, are what are known as the Merovingian, which is where they believe the Antichrist should rise out of, is the Merovingian bloodline. The top of that is the House Paysure, which currently is being run by Weston, and that's Somerset Belanoff, who's both a Belanoff, a Romanoff, and a Plantagenet. The Plantagenet are the same as the Paysure, essentially, but the Plantagenet are the old kings that the Castle Weston took and got power by taking over the entire spy network of the Roman Empire and the Vatican. And so they're the ones that run that.
Okay, so can you give us some examples like of the families, like who we would know or where they're located?
Yeah, if you go to Deception Bites, you can learn. She's done a 5-part video on Somerset Belanoff, who runs the World Council, and her daughters. You have to realize that in the bloodlines, they split it between male and female. And the male does one part of they do the overt, and then the female are behind the true power. That's why Q says follow the wives. So Somerset Belanoff is the true power, and they do all kinds of things like necromancy, human sacrifice, where they have a game once every year, like the Hunger Games, where the people, two teams fight to the death, and the winners get to fight the next year, and the losers are dinner.
Oh, God. And she's in England, right?
Yeah, she has, her whole family have this rare thing where they have different colored eyes. Like one eye will be brown and one eye will be blue, like you see in husky dogs, or where even within an eye, it'll be both brown and blue.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so it's weird. And so that's the top. And on the male side, it goes to the Netherlands, the Duke of Orange, who's the head of the World Council on the male side. And then that's, again, the overt, more in the limelight that you see. Then the second are the Sinclairs, or the St. Clairs, and that's the Romanov bloodline. And that, of course, is, she is both a Romanov, and she's descendant, she's the great-great-grandchild, Somerset Belanoff, of Rasputin, who is the black sorcerer that betrayed the Tsar Nicholas, and had the whole family killed except for the one girl that they took to use as a breeder, which is what they always do, to get the human genetics in their system for dark magic and dark purposes. Then the next level down, and that's what's called the upper chamber. And the upper chamber looks at the lower chamber. The lower chamber are just what they call the serfs, are the peons and the workers, and they look at them like scum. They said the communists, once they're done with them, are just a tool that will be dinner when they're done with them. So that would be, starting with the top of the lower chamber, would be the Rothschild family, which originally were called Bauer, B-A-U-E-R. Sometimes you'll see people misspell it and do it B-O-W-E-R.
Oh, wow. That's why the handler for Greta Thunberg, her name is Louisa M. Neubauer. Is that the same or no?
Yes. New and Bauer are two. It's like when you hyphenate your name when you're a woman and you don't want to change your last name. So you take part of the husband's name and your name and hyphenate it.
She is really,
she is the type where they breed them in the womb. They genetically engineer them in the womb. Mm-hmm. And so she's a bred tool. Mm. And that reminds me of the ones you were talking about earlier, like the Prime Minister of Canada, and that some of the things they have is, this is part of what are called the Jesuits. Mm-hmm. And the Jesuits are, like, the current Pope is a Jesuit, along with the current Canadian Prime Minister and Bill Clinton. Those, they call themselves the Church of Jesus Christ, but they're actually the Church of Satan. They're the enforcement arm of the Church of Satan.
Yeah, and Bill Clinton is a Jesuit, but also, like, supposed to be the illegitimate son of a Rockefeller, correct?
Right. And Rockefellers, I'll get down to them. They're actually the Rockefeller. Well, we're actually there now. The Rockefellers, Carnegies, the Onassis are all cousins underneath the Rothschilds. They're all illegitimate Rothschilds. So those are just names. And Clinton, actually, originally, the name that the Clintons had is B-Y-E, by. The family by. Mm-hmm. And they're all just Rothschild, illegitimate spawn that they, like Hitler was, who was actually.
Trump said by, B-Y-E, Hillary, in the Q drops. He said that.
Yeah, that's why, because that's the actual name. No, it's just like Hitler was actually named Schicklgruber. And then they had to get married to fulfill Nostradamus's prophecies. That's how they do it. Nostradamus was a Jesuit, so he's their prophet. And the way they make their prophecies come real is they're controlling all the money and all the strings and the blackmail on everybody, so they can make things happen. Yeah, it's not that the prophet's accurate. They're just who's controlling this stuff is making the prophecies come real.
And then the Bundys, right? The Bundy family.
We'll get down there.
Okay.
So the fourth one down would be the Windsor family that sacked the original family of England that ruled England, which was the Winslows. So they put in with Norman the Conqueror the Windsors. Okay. And that's their actual name is Saxe Coburg Gotha. Gotha goes to Vlad the Impaler, who impaled literally, when they went to his castle back during his reign, there was just impaled bodies everywhere on stakes. Mm-hmm. He was really, really vicious and nasty, kind of evil, dark dude. Then below that would be the Van Duns. And then below that are the Astors. Below that, now we start what are called the enforcement arms, where the warriors. That would be the Habsburg and the Krupps, and they're the ones that set up wars. So if you look at the Treaty of Versailles, mm-hmm. that ended World War I, excuse me, I'm not there yet. I'm getting off. That's the Warburgs. I'm sorry, but the Habsburgs and the Krupps are the ones that are the money to set up wars. Okay. Then our next, below that are the Bundy Collins, which are both related. And they're actually an extension of the Astors.
But Bundy, that's the one where that serial killer Ted Bundy came from, right?
Right. You got a lot of really nasty Bundys, a lot of very high up Bundys that have been in, like Brett Scrockoff is actually a Bundy.
Right.
Then the next one you get into what are known as the black nobility, ancient black nobility in Italy. and the crime families, which are I can't pronounce this, Medicis, and under them are the Cavendish. They're related, they're cousins.
Wow.
And then underneath that, we have cousins to a three-family group that are cousins again to the Van Duns. But you can consider these like one family, and actually they're called the Freemen, and that's just a play on words that they're free man. In other words, sovereign. Like if you see in the old days, the king would say, "I'm your sovereign." It means that he's sovereign. He's royalty and nobility, and he's an individual, but everybody else is property.
I see.
And so the Onassis and the Kennedys are part of that group. And they're just cousins of each other. They're all part of that family line.
No wonder Jackie Kennedy went to marry Onassis.
Right. She's just marrying a cousin.
No.
First cousin. Mm-hmm. And then underneath that, we have the 11th primary family line, or what are known as the Dows. That's the Dow Jones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And included in there are the DuPonts, like DuPont Chemical.
Yeah, DuPont that poisoned so many people, and the cows and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The Mellons.
Mm-hmm.
And in royal families, if you look at somebody's family name, you can see what tier they are. So, here we're at 11th tier. But for example, if you look at Clinton, or Bush rather, George Herbert, his given name is George, but his family name is Herbert Walker Clinton Bush. So that 4 names tells you he's 4th tier. Clinton Bush would tell you Clinton's 3rd tier, and Bush is their direct cousins.
Wow.
And then beneath that are the war makers. So as I was saying earlier, when I started getting off track there, the Warburgs with the Treaty of Versailles. So for the U.S. was Paul Warburg, and then for Germany was Max Warburg, to strap Germany with payments so massive that they would be forced to go to war so they could bring out a psychopath out of a lunatic asylum named Hitler, who would raise it up. And it was the Rothschilds that got him out and set him up into power, of course. And underneath, they're also known as the Del Blancos for the crime family in Italy. And then underneath that, their mercenary families that are part of the Warburgs are the houses of Hesse and Hanover. And so if you look at the Battle of Waterloo, the Hesse and Hanover were the primary mercenaries on both sides, whether it was through Napoleon or through, my mind just went blank. I had it in there, but now I lost it. The guy that defeated Napoleon, I can't remember his name right now, sorry. But it's pretty, you can find it pretty easy. Just look at the Battle of Waterloo. Mm-hmm. And that's how the Rothschilds got extremely wealthy and took over the banks of England and France. Was the Battle of Waterloo. They knew who would win, and the British royalty knew that the Rothschilds were funding both sides because their couriers wore little red bags and were allowed through both lines to bring the money in that they needed to wage war. And so when the 4 known Rothschild sons were dumping all of their bonds, they realized they figured he was gonna lose. And so then a illegitimate Rothschild was buying them up at 100th of price. And so when the Bank of England came back, broke the Bank of England, but they came back under the Rothschild family because they bought up all the British bonds. They thought it was good, the British were going to lose and that Napoleon was going to win the Battle of Waterloo because they were dumping all their British bonds. And Britain was backing the guy that won Waterloo. But they thought he's going to lose because they're dumping all the bonds. So in one move, they got control of the Bank of England and the Bank of France. And then the 13th family, which is known as the bastard family, is the Li family, and that's the Chinese family.
That's what I'm interested in. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in. The Li family, which is Chinese, right?
Yes, Chinese and Mongolian. So the ancient part of that, the Mongolian, is the Mongolian horde through Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, and the Khans, the Khanate. And that goes down into Somalia. For example, you look at of the 4, the AOC, Presley, What's and Ilhan Omar. Omar is actually originally of the Khanate. Her real name is not Omar, and so she's actually Ismaili.
Bin Said, isn't it?
Yeah, bin Said. And Said was the butcher, was known as the butcher of Somalia because he ran the prison camps where they butchered hundreds and hundreds. And there's pictures of her all dressed up in military gear with AR-15s and different, automatic weapons and bloody machetes where she was killing people for fun.
Yeah, they were the perpetrators, but they acted like they were the victims, but they were really the perpetrators.
Correct. So that's the Lee family was supposed to be the tool to bring about the New World Order through communism.
Right.
And they brought communism into China and to cull down the Chinese population to where it would be controllable, get rid of the ancient history of China, burn all the books and knowledge and destroy all of the history of China and get the people completely brainwashed into a satanic type of governmental system. But the Chinese decided that they would be the New World Order. So back in 1981, the black nobility, the top families, the Merovingian and Somerset Belanoff, decided to eradicate the Chinese, the Lee family entirely, and develop the corona through Bill Gates and that one company, Tribart, to patent it to target the ACE2, which is the unique areoli in the Chinese lungs that are a development that the Chinese had to deal with the fact that all of Asia was vaccinated. When they got the polio vaccine, it was laced with tuberculosis. And so to not die from tuberculosis, but just be carriers, the lungs changed so that they had the ACE2, and that's what it's targeting. But of course, it's activated by 5G.
And I am taking the MMS, and I've never felt better in my life. The MMS, when I mix it up, oh my gosh, it's so great. And I'm also taking oyster root to clean out my lungs, which is great. And then I want to talk about two people in the Li family. It seems that Li Kaishang, the general, was one of the Li family. That's a Chinese general. And then we have Bruce Lee, but they didn't want him. What happened there? Do you know?
Well, Bruce Lee was teaching the ancient secret martial arts that aren't supposed to be taught outside the Lee family. He was teaching it to white people. And then after they murdered him, his son kept that up. He got that information and that technology, if you will, of the DMOC and that type of thing that I learned as well, which is death touch. He got that from Yip Man. And then he was teaching that to everybody, and they warned him to stop, but he wouldn't stop. He figured that martial arts was a heritage of humanity and not specifically to be the Lee family's private little secret.
But he was a Lee, right? He was a Lee family.
Yes.
L-E-E.
Yeah.
Because in Singapore, the president, the Lee Kuan Yew is also L-E-E, and his son Lee, I think it's Li Ka-shing is also a Lee. So yeah, that's passed down. Okay, let's go into the chemtrails for a second. Okay, this is what you told me. You said the good chemtrails, they feather out very quickly, and the sky stays blue, and they absorb all the, and do you have the breakdown of the new chemtrails?
The new ones I don't. I have the breakdown of the old. There's so many chemicals in there, as well as viruses.
Can you kind of give us some of them?
Yeah, there's viruses, there's bacteria, there's barium titanate, and that barium and barium fluoride are both radioactive forms of barium. Then there's aluminum chlorhydrate. The aluminum is the primary refractory that allows it to be very silvery, to reflect and cool the air, to make and control weather using HARP or wind towers, excuse me, or other type of energies, microwave energies from satellites back when they had the satellites and the HARP. In the U.S., the U.S. HARP in Alaska was shut down. They still have the ones running in foreign countries, but if you were to look up before the Trump got in and they shut it down. On certain days, and I learned the different frequency patterns. If you do it overseas, people who are overseas listening to this, when you see everybody being stupid or angry one day and stupid the next, or belligerent, if you look at the frequency pattern, the ripples in the sky, you'll learn that when you get up, you know how people will be when you go out by the pattern of the frequencies that you'll see reflected into the clouds, because they're rippling the clouds in that frequency, and that frequency always does that type of behavior. It's used for behavior modification, controlling people. Then they're also spraying originally what aspartame was from. Aspartame was originally a brown liquid that was very viscous and very bitter that Hitler developed in the concentration camps through Mengele for mind control, making Mark Ultras. And they found that by adding a fluoride agent to it, it made it sweet. And that's why they use it for aspartame. It also makes a person's mind pliable, so it's very powerful. That's why they put it in everything, to make us pliable to their
That's
suggestion.
That's why I don't drink fizzy drinks. That's mostly in fizzy drinks, correct? Mostly in...
Yeah. It's all over, and all these like Zero Coke and all of these different...
I don't touch none of that.
Yeah. And so that's really bad. And so they spray that in the chemtrails over areas of because we're in the Great Awakening, they will go over certain areas where people are getting too awake, and they'll spray it and then lock it down. That helps lock down the mental frequency, drop it down, and then they hit it with HARP, with a dumbing frequency that dumbs everybody down and makes you so that you can't think straight, and you can't. That's where you'll be out driving and light will turn green and people will I'm sitting at a light, nobody's going, I'm the only car moving forward. I'm like, is there somebody going the wrong way or something? Nobody's going.
Yeah, they stop at the green light and they go at the red light. It's like crazy.
Yeah, it makes the mind fire backwards, and it also makes decision making very difficult for people that aren't keeping their body and their brain and things clean from, like you said, don't drink that. Is kind of a simple, easy way to start.
Yeah, and also we always have the aluminium, which seems to be the highest content, and it's at the top of the list. Aluminium, like how many, like what is it, 90% or something like that, and then down zinc and magnesium, calcium. There's every single metal that you can imagine in the chemtrail.
Yeah, the magnesium tetrafluoride is put in so that it'll be absorbed by trees. That's why you see the bark on trees falling off, because the trees are dying, and that's why in paradise, when they hit that with the 4 trillion watt lasers, the trees would light up from inside. The tree would, just like you do with a maser, they would use 4 trillion watt masers. The difference between a maser and a laser is one's light amplification, the other one's microwave. So literally microwave it, and as you know, with microwave energy, it heats up from the inside out, and the tree would get so hot inside that it would light on fire, and the tree would burn from the inside out.
And that's what they do with the houses too. The houses burn from the inside out too.
Yeah, that's why you can see they could get it so hot that you would see, and it's so directional, you will see a granite fireplace that's oxidized. The rock has literally been vaporized of a fireplace, but next 4 feet away, a plastic trash can is untouched, not even melted.
It's so
and you
crazy.
see car bodies where the people were trying to get and run out of there because they know it's coming down. They would get in the car and then they'd hit the car, and the whole block of the engine is literally just turned into a puddle.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I saw that. The cars were melted.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. So about, what do you think we have control of the chemtrails now? Are it seems like they're giving the good chemtrails, which you say feather out. The signs of that are the sky stay blue, correct? It seems that they're grabbing the old chemtrails, the feathering out, grabbing the old chemtrails, you said, and making clouds where it's kind of dark underneath, which is all where the metals are, correct?
Right. So what is happening?
And then does it dissolve? Does it dissolve then, or what happens?
What is happening is we have weather war. So over the oceans, do you still have the bunker busters and all of that going?
Yeah.
so you've got this nasty stuff being done at sea, and of course then that is blown over our continent. So the deep state is still running the stuff offshore.
Correct.
And then that's blown onshore, and then the white hats through Trump are doing the new stuff to destroy the old stuff, so that especially the nanotech, because it has nanotech and nanofibers and smart dust in that stuff as well. And so that, when it gets in the human body, will make it able for them to take it with the 5G frequencies, take over a human body and literally turn it into a bot. And that's Magellans, which I just had an outbreak and I'm getting over, so I'm still congested a bit. That's why I keep doing that. Is due to that some people's bodies reject it more than others, and it gets, when it's rejected, it piles up in the surface areas, the largest organs of elimination being the skin, and you have what's called what people believe are shingles. It's not really shingles. 98% of shingles is not shingles. It's a Magellan's attack. If you were to get the outbreak and wipe it off and look at it in the dark with a UV light, a black light, you'll see the little fibers glowing and the smart dust sparkling. And if you go get the very expensive creams, my wife got me a $25 cream for shingles, and it made it worse. So the best thing you can do is essential oil mixture. I have a formula my wife made up. If people need that, I have that. And then there's a guy up in near Canada and Michigan that makes a device that has all kinds of variant magnetic fields in every single direction. And you put it in the bathtub with you, and it causes all these variant magnetic fields that literally, like taking an old cassette tape with a big magnet, you wipe out the program. So what this does is takes all the smart dust, fibers, everything that are trying to take you over, and it wipes their programming out, and then the body can just get rid of it.
Yeah, but when it gets rid of it to the skin, what does it look like?
It looks like, if you look at shingles outbreaks, it looks just like that, but you'll see pointy things too, which are the fibers. And if you hit even yourself, like you get the skin tagging, the red skin tags and the black skin tags.
Right.
The skin tagging is your body rejecting the nanofibers.
Right.
So if you hit those with UV light, you'll see the little fibers glowing in the dark.
And you can, the MMS will help with that, detox that, right?
Yeah, the MMS, that's the other thing that made me make it through, is the MMS, because shingles is incredibly painful. What they call shingles is actually, again, Morgellons. But the MMS destroys and attacks them. It punches holes in the nanotech. It literally pulls them apart because they're silicon.
Also, what is that stuff that I use sometimes? What do you call it? That dimaceous earth mixed with. I mix dimaceous earth with.
I'm glad you mentioned that one. That's extremely powerful for that as well. They can't take that. And so what my wife does, I call it the mud. She mixes diatomaceous earth with activated charcoal and bentonite clay. And what that does is the diatomaceous earth destroys them, and then the activated charcoal and the bentonite clay absorb the toxins to get it out of your body. So we mix an even amount of each.
I would add black seed oil to that.
Oh yeah. I take that separately in pill form. So I mix the mud up in equal parts and add enough water to where it becomes soupy enough you can drink it and drink it down. It doesn't taste that bad. It's just kind of like drinking charcoal mud.
We have the bunker fuel that's being dumped off in the ocean, which is basically the filthiest of anything that's from the fuel being refined. That's the bunker fuel. It says one ship dumping bunker fuel, which they do to start the hurricanes and stuff, is equal to all the vehicles on Earth, all the fuel, all the exhaust that they produce on Earth is equal to one bunker fuel, and they have a lot of bunker fuels dumping, a lot of ships dumping bunker fuel. Okay, that we don't have control of, but we kind of have control of the chemtrails. And the chemtrails I can see because everything I described, it's not raining, it's still sunny, but I can feel the cool air is coming in because the aluminium was reflecting the heat, and in the summertime, it would make it like, in the wintertime here it was hot too because of the metals in the air. the zinc and the aluminium. And so basically it was so hot and 80 degrees in the winter that in the summer we're thinking but they're cleaning it out. We're thinking that it'd be 100 and something degrees because it makes you feel like you want to peel your skin off. It's like so hot because of the metals in the air. But now you said they're cleaning it up, which I can see that they're doing the good chemtrails. So do we have a percentage of that that's cleaned up, you think, in our air?
It's about 30%. It's, it's still pretty bad because of the massive amount they're dumping with the bunker busters. Wow. And again, the way to tell is the new ones feather out. They look like feather strands, and the old stuff it attracts the new stuff. And when they come together, the old stuff will just get big gray smudgy tubes. And then you'll see the new stuff feather out, and it'll dissolve, and the whole sky will turn blue and clear. And then when it rains or snows, you'll see what looks like in the snow black dots, and in the rain on the grass, you'll see what looks like spider fibers or husky fur. But if you touch it, it collapses to dust, and that's the nanofibers and nanotech literally being destroyed and turning to just a powder.
So when the chemtrails the good chemtrails go and get the bad chemtrails, does it cause a lot of wind? Like, usually there's a lot of wind, and it cools it down, right? And basically the clouds, they don't look like cumulus clouds. They just look like clouds that are like gaseous and just spread out. I don't know what that is.
Now, it wasn't really a name. It's kind of close to what they used to call the high cirrus clouds.
Yeah. But
they're not really the same. It's, just a chemtrail cloud is the best thing. For example, over Africa 2 weeks ago, there was a huge dust storm that came in from the Middle East where they were doing weather were. So one broke the other. So you had hot on one side and cold on the other side, which then caused a depression, which caused a massive dust storm across Africa in the Middle East.
And so it's only 30% cleared off, but it's better. I think the wind is from the chemtrails getting broken up too, and it's cooled down, which I really like. It's cooled down a lot. The weather's better. Okay, let's go to the last but not least is what were we going to talk about last?
Before you get to that last thing on the chemtrails is we need to be really thankful for that, because part of what they did with Wuhan, that's part of what they did, is it puts that AI so that then using the 5G, they can irradiate you with combination of the corona, then it makes you drop dead near cell towers or smart devices. Right. And so Trump had a bill that went both through the Senate and Congress during the Christmas break in 2019 when the Democrats were on vacation. They put it through and ripped out all kinds of the Huawei and Apple products coming from China, the 5G, out all over the U.S. So we don't have that Chinese technology here. They've torn it out. That's why you don't see it right now ballooning through the U.S. like it did in China. One case becomes thousands in a week, where you don't see that here because Trump had that all ripped out.
So we have a different 5G. We have a different 5G than they do, then, right? Basically.
Yeah, we have a different one that Trump put in, and the only ones, the problems is people have personal devices that came from China, like Apple products, are made in China. So then you would have some problems with that, but it's nowhere near like having cell towers all over made by Huawei.
And I have a phone. I think it's from Metro PCS, but I think it's a cool pad, but I put a Shungite sticker on it, so it's good. I think it's good. I'm fine.
Yeah. So the other thing you wanted is you had something you found that you were going to read.
We also wanted the 2 updates on the DUMBs. Remember we were talking about the DUMBs?
Yeah, I talked about the one that's in the Cayman Islands. I tied that in with Richard Branson, the one in the Cayman Islands, but there's also one in Afghanistan that they took out. That was part of the takeout in which they killed Baghdadi, the tunnel system where he ran into, thinking he's going to escape through that tunnel system. The special forces had already come up through the tunnel system, collapsing it behind them. Right. And so that tunnel system going out through Afghanistan that they use for a lot of human trafficking, they're continuing to take that out, as well as one that's in Albania. I can't even begin to pronounce the name. I don't speak Albanian. It's some weird name.
Yeah.
It's whatever, but they're taking that one out as well and one in Greece. So that's the primary ones they're taking out. And then they're taking out the tunnel system that runs from the Philippines down into New Zealand and Australia to Canberra, which is one of the biggest dumps in the world, and Pine Gap.
Canberra, Australia. Yeah, Canberra.
Yeah, Canberra and the Falkland Islands are their two powered anode cathode for the world free energy grid to run the dumps free energy. When they take those out, they won't have their free energy. And then for the dumps. And then the other one is Pine Gap, where they do massive, massive research, genetics, making all kinds of freakazoid monsters where they put like dolphins and humans and pigs and humans and all kinds of, like they used to do back in, a long time ago when God destroyed everything.
That's in Australia too, right? Pine Gap. Is that in Australia also?
Yeah, that's in Australia.
Yeah, I'm not going to be visiting Australia and New Zealand anytime soon.
Yeah.
Okay, you want me to read so this guy is military intel. He's now confirming what Gene said when we started doing our Gene decodes months and months ago. I would say 6 or 8 months ago. Okay, so his name is Mighead1. I'm going to read, and this is confirming what Gene has done, what has said regarding Obama. He calls him Obama. As I've heard it, he's in Gitmo begging for his life, to no avail. Seems that a new cloning technique for people where they can also be rapidly aged, which what Gene talked about, that aging machine. I'm hearing that Obama had 18 made of himself. I'm also hearing that there's a problem with the rapid aging process where they haven't figured out how to stop it. So with the rapid aging process, so the clones die quickly. So I'm hearing that there's only one of Obama's 18 left and still alive. Same goes for the current HRC, which looks 20 years younger than the one that's so very obviously near death's door. I think this is a double though. It's not a clone. If not behind it, and same for Epstein in his cell, that was a clone. Both the real HRC and Epstein are on trial in Greenland in an underground nuke-proof military bunker. And Gene's name for that would be the ice, what do you call that? Ice worm, right? Ice worm.
Correct, ice worm.
Okay, the same thing he's talking about. Gene talked about months ago. Haven't heard anything about Bill lately. And the Christmas card this year was from the first year in the White House. I heard a year or so ago that he was down to 120 pounds and the final stages of AIDS, just as Hillary is or was in the late stages of Kuru. I heard they're trying desperately to keep her alive to get her through her trial here. So I'm guessing that both of them are either near or at or beyond the end here. Anybody seen Cheney lately? And we're going, and then he has one last one that he said. Hold on, not that one. He had, this was a short one. Hold on. Here we go. No, that's not it. It's this one, last one. Sorry, that's not Gene, it's me. I can't find it. I'm not organized. Okay.
So while you're looking on Obama, the one, as he said, there in Gitmo's a clone that's dying from the aging process uncontrolled. The original is dying from AIDS. The original Obama's up in Greenland in Iceworm Base. And he's already done all this testifying. They're just waiting to, when they come out with a mass arrest and trials, military tribunals, if they're going to execute him, then they'd have somebody to execute. Same with Hillary. She actually did die, as I mentioned previously, during 2016 when she collapsed outside and they rushed her to Chelsea's and they brought her back, but she has to be kept alive with adrenochrome-laced blood. And so she's usually kept in cryogenics because the amount of blood that's then needed is very much dropped, and they don't like to have to do that for her. so that they keep her where her heart's normally beating 1 time a minute. And the one that we see out running around, like you say, Kirsten, is an actor. That's not even a clone. That's just an actress.
That's a
It's
double.
a
Yeah, that's a double. And that's the one that's probably going to stand trial, probably.
Yes, more than
It
likely.
doesn't matter because they're both CIA operatives, correct? They're both assets. So it doesn't matter which CIA asset standing trial. It's still a CIA asset, correct?
Correct. And the one that gave Barry the AIDS is Big Mike.
Big Mike gave Barry the AIDS?
Yep.
And what doesn't Big Mike have it?
Yep.
Oh, Big Mike has it too.
Yep.
So Becoming Michelle has HIV and has had it for a long time.
Yep. She's just taking, they have a vaccination they use so that they don't have to develop like you see with Barry, where he gets very skinny, which in Africa they first called the AIDS, the thinning disease, because it makes you very skinny and thin. And so Big Mike is taking a vaccination so that that doesn't happen to him.
But still sick though.
Still sick.
And infectious.
Yeah, it doesn't get rid of it like MMS does. MMS will get rid of it. It'll wipe it out. The first AIDS trials in Africa where 300 people volunteered, 299 were negative, HIV negative in a week.
And why don't they take that? I don't understand.
Because they don't want, if a whole bunch of people start getting that, then people will find out about it and they'll say, wow, this is so powerful. And you're going to wipe out Big Pharma, because if you find out that it gets rid of that, it gets rid of cancers, it gets rid of everything, what's Big Pharma going to make money on?
It's got a very pungent smell. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, you're going to start to laugh. This is me, right? I'm not thinking, right? So I'm getting a glass of your water, right, with the water smacker, that negative, whatever, negative. Is it positive charged water or whatever it is? I guess it's positive, right? Not negative. Anyway, so it's negative charged. And so basically, I was dropping 3 drops of the hydrochloric acid and 3 drops of the other liquid into the water. No, you're supposed to mix it together first, then put it in the water. Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew that. How I do it is I put a shot glass, dry clean shot glass.
Oh,
and
God.
I got at a thrift shop, a nice little shot.
I was like doing it for a week and you know what I was saying? Wow, my hair feels really dry because it's like very, very dry. And so then one of the girls are like, okay, I talked to Gene, and he said that I have to mix it first and then put it in the water. So now I'm doing it, and I haven't felt so good in a very long time, I have to admit. So I'm real energized. I have a lot of energy. Okay, so this is the last one from Mighead, okay? As I understand it, GW is in Gitmo. One of the many charges, such as 9/11, etc. One was for murder of the 4,400 soldiers that died in his complete false flag hoax Iraq operation. IMO. That's what needs to happen to all of the perps in these lab events here. Military tribunals and max penalties. Sorry about your orphan kids, Bill. I think he's talking about Bill Clinton and his black son and his adopted daughter, Chelsea, which is really not his, correct? Correct.
Yeah, and you can see the same thing with his good buddy, Richard, that I was talking about before, where you see Richard Branson on his island in Neater Island with all these little black kids.
He had children with women, I guess.
Yeah, quite a few different ones.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, thank you so much, Gene.
Thank you, Kirsten.
This was the best so far. I think we covered so many subjects.
I agree.
Thank you so much. And let's do it again. And yeah, let's do Rick again too soon.
That was a great show too. Thank you.
That was a good show.
Kirsten. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
God bless. Goodbye.
God bless. Thank you.